We're going to do a series circuit with 3 resistors in this example. All right, so let's draw the battery first. Again, we don't have to draw all the lines. If you want to draw lines, you are welcome to. So we're going to come around. Here's our first resistor. Here's our second resistor. Here's our third resistor. And then a path back to ground. Notice I did not draw the fuse or the switch. We know the fuse and the switch are supposed to be involved in the circuit. This is just for practice purposes here. We're not drawing every single detail of the circuit that needs to be in there. Okay, so let me give you some values. We're going to make this one relatively easy. I'm going to give you 12 volts. We're going to give you 6 amps. Okay, and then R1 is going to be 0.5 ohms. And then R2 is also going to be 0.5 ohms of resistance. And then R3 is what we need to find. R3 is X. Okay, so let's move over. We know Ohm's law. Ohm's law is E over IR. And we need to find the usual suspects, which is E, I, and in this case, RT, because we need to add up the resistance in the circuit. However, the resistance in the circuit, we can't add it up because we're missing a variable, but we can find it relatively easy. So we have 12 volts. For E, we have 6 amps for I. Can we find RT right away? Yeah, well, easily. If you're unsure how to do this, make sure you go back to previous videos, and I can show you on Ohm's law on how to do that really, really quick. So 12 divided by 6 is 2 ohms of resistance. R1 equals 0.5. I'm going to write these down here. R2 equals 0.5 also. And then R3 is X. We do not know, but we can figure this out really, really easily. In order to find RT, RT is equal to R1 plus R2 plus R3. Now, RT, we already figured that out, which is 2. R1 is 0.5. R2 is also 0.5. And then R3 is X. So what we can do is we can bring down the 2, bring down the equal sign, add 0.5 to 0.5, which will give us 1 plus X. Do a little bit of algebra if we want to see it mathematically. I think everyone can see what the answer is at this point right now. But we can subtract 1 from both sides. The 1's cancel out on the right side of the equal sign. As far as 2 minus 1 is 1, and 1 is equal to X. So our answer for R3 is 1. 1 ohm equals R3. Okay, so hopefully it wasn't too difficult. Series circuits are very, very relatively easy compared to parallel circuits, which would be a different module. Okay, again, as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.